We were, before we came into your office, looking at a piece of memorabilia hanging from the ceiling. I understand no movie really quite lived up to your imagination until that one.
I think you're talking about 2001, Space Odyssey. That one set me down the path of wanting to know how specifically things were done, because I was seeing something I could never have, well, I shouldn't say I couldn't have imagined it. I read a lot of science fiction, I imagined it, I'd just never seen it. And I'd certainly never seen it at that level of kind of perfection. It was an insane level of detail that had never existed in film before. It was really a quantum leap beyond everything before that. And also the film shook me in a couple of other ways. One, I'd never really thought of music as part of film. I mean, I had been kind of more or less oblivious to it. And also that film could be a piece of art in the sense of just pure art. I love movies, and I always found them that they triggered an imaginative process. I think most people fall into the category of, if they really love a movie, they become a fan of that movie, and they'll draw, maybe if they're artistic, they'll draw things for that movie, or they'll do fan fiction. For me, a movie inspired me to do something in the same area but original. So when I saw Mysterious Island, for example, I came home and did my own story about people cast away on a raft and coming to an island, but different kinds of creatures than were in that movie. And I think that's where I think any input, whatever your reference is throughout your life, can be beneficial if you don't just copy it slavishly in a fan fashion, but it inspires you to do your own version of it.
Do you remember your visit with Stanley after True Lies?
Yeah.
What stands out from that?
Well, that was funny because I was in Europe, and I just called Stanley up. I don't remember how I got, I tracked him down through the agency or whatever. I just called him up. I was a filmmaker at the time, so I could cold call people. I had just made True Lies. And I said, hey, I'm going to be in Europe over my birthday. And as a birthday present to myself, what I imagined the best possible conceivable present would be is to come and talk to you. And he was like, yeah, sure, come on over. And he said, but I want you to bring True Lies, and we're going to go through it together. I said, okay. He said, yeah, I'm doing this thing called AI, and I just want to know how you did the effects. He'd already seen the movie. So I show up at his house with a film cans with a print of True Lies. And I spent the day, and we go down to his basement, which was all like a cobwebby dungeon, just packed, because he shot his own films using his own equipment. So he'd had all this stuff for, this is the stuff that Full Metal Jacket was made with. There were cameras kind of shoved over against the wall. Everything was gathering dust. And there was an old flatbed, editing system. So we dusted that off, got the print running. And then I sat there and I said, okay, so this is an effect. This is how we did it. And I came across a shot and I said, and this is an effect. And he said, how is that an effect? I said, well, because that chateau didn't really exist. So we just digitally put that in there. And he goes, yeah, of course. Yeah. And then he peppered me with questions for about 2.5 hours or 3 hours, whatever it was. I lost track of time. But I thought, this is really cool.